Before we start, member roll call, let the minutes reflect that alternate member Marcus Catkin will be a full voting member tonight. Roll call, let's start with Scott.
Nat present.
Catkin here.
Capiello here.
Jesse, you're here.
Allen present.
Driscoll present. Also with us tonight is town planner, Ernest Krivling, land use administrative assistant, Barbara Irvine, and James Jennison, building inspector and code enforcement officer, zoning administrator. Next item is a review and approval of the minutes from September 16th. Any comments or corrections? Hearing none, is there a motion to accept the minutes? I'll make that motion.
Seconded.
Seconded by Scott. Roll call.
Shepherd.
Nap abstain. I didn't get a chance to review.
Catkin, aye.
Capiello, aye.
Jesse, your eye.
Allen, aye.
Driscoll, aye.
Who was the second on that?
Scott.
Yep.
Next, we have staff updates with Ernest Krivling, town planner.
A couple of different things. You have a handout here about the town center and town center days. It's a summary that the consultants put together for you. I mean, this is for you to take. I'm not going to go through this paragraph by paragraph, but of interest is that they are talking about making the town center district smaller, a little bit more compact. And then they're talking about a regulatory timeline here where they, tonight, I was just going to give you this update. On October 21st, the consultants are going to have a PowerPoint presentation delivered here so that we can present it to you folks on the 21st. And then early November, they want to have a draft ordinance to you for your consideration. And November 18th will be a review and discussion of the updated draft ordinance district map. And then December 2nd, 16th, possible public hearings. Just to give you an update, it was a well-attended event as we discussed last time. Pretty successful, but I wanted to make sure you had this and were aware of the time frame that's being proposed for the ordinance development.
Great, thank you.
The next item I wanted to ask about was that last night at the select board meeting, Connor brought up to the board about putting a warrant article on the warrant this year, which was to establish a CIP committee, a special one that's dedicated just to developing a CIP, capital improvement program, because, you know, as you discussed last time when we talked about this, you were talking about your role of being advisory and that you make recommendations and sometimes they come back, changed back to what they were before. And I wasn't sure how the board felt about that. Connor wanted me to get your opinion about having a special warrant article to establish a CIP committee that would be by the board of the select board every year.
Okay.
But it would be advisory budget and planning board, and I guess the select board, at least a representative from each of those.
Been pushing for this because I'm also on the budget committee and there's some big ticket items coming up. And I think it'd be good not only to look at the capital improvement plan as a whole, but maybe drill down into some of these bigger, replacing large culverts that are going to cost us millions of dollars. There's even been talk about a $10 to $12 million bond article to pay for all this across the town. So having eyes on that and really trying to do a deeper dive, not into just the CIP, but into some of the proposals about what they're doing and making sure. I mean, you probably don't want to do this. We'd love to have you on there to throw darts at what people are thinking and try to come up with creative solutions to reduce the cost of the whole lot of work that we have going on.
Anybody else? Okay. Next item, item number 5 on the agenda. 5A, map 232, lot 19 in the neighborhood residential zone and the highway commercial overlay design. Owner is Judy Mackey Fogarty. Request by the applicant for design review for a 4-lot subdivision with a 9.6 special permit located at 1252 Franklin Pierce Highway in the neighborhood's residential district. Welcome. Okay.
Good evening, Chair. Christopher Berry with Berry Surveying and Engineering, representing the applicant. Here with me tonight is Ray Bisson from Stonewall Surveying, so if there's any questions that I can't answer, I'm sure Ray could jump in and help us out. This is a joint project between the two of us, and given the amount of work that will be required between us and NHDOT, Ray thought that our assistance on this project was we were better suited for that purpose. So just a brief background on the property. It's approximately 21 acres in size. There's a small wetland towards the front of the property here. There's a wetland towards the back of the property. We will field delineate very poorly drained soils to determine whether or not any part of the prime wetland actually extends onto our property. That was a comment that we've received recently from the Conservation Commission. So we'll undertake that and make sure that it's part of our final plan set. The property contains frontage on Franklin Pierce Highway. And I think if we all know the area, this curve has a number of attributes to it that make sight distance along it very difficult. So it's a very tight corner through here. There's a lot of topographic change that takes place from one side of our property to the other. The existing site has a 4-unit building on site. There's an access to the east property line, and then there's a shared access to the westerly abutter over our westerly corner. And so the plans that we submitted for a design review are slightly different than the ones that we handed out tonight. I'll just go through those differences. We certainly feel as though the plan that we handed out tonight is superior. So we just wanted to sort of bring that to your attention. And there's been a sort of a life cycle involved in how we got from where we were when we submitted to where we are today. So as we started our process with NHDOT, we we're partly under the understanding that this is an existing driveway of record. We really aren't changing that driveway. There's a 4-unit building there now. We weren't proposing to change the attributes of that driveway. And thus we didn't feel as though it would be a change of use. And so there's poor sight distance at this driveway entrance onto Franklin Pierce now. And so we determined that the driveway that's actually to the west is a much safer driveway, though we understood that it would need and require some improvement. And so we wanted to place all of the driveway access for our proposed subdivision at that one location. So that would cause a few different things to take place. So the original design review plans that we submitted have a shared driveway that comes up our back lots. So we have 2 back lots here, shared driveway that came up the back lots and then entered this frontage lot, sort of a Form A lot, from the rear of the site. So then we would have 4 driveways off from one access point, but this is, in our opinion at the time, was a much better access point onto Franklin Pierce Highway. Since that time, DOT has come back to us and said, because we're proposing to subdivide this entire parcel, despite how you piece and part out the driveways, is a change of use. And so we want to make sure that both driveways are as compliant as possible. And so for us to do that, we essentially need to create sightline easements that come down through the frontage of the properties here. We would essentially need to move that bank back so that as somebody's sitting here, they can see 400 feet in each direction. In the easterly direction, we don't have any issue with sightline. It's the westerly direction. And so we've had to work with DOT on how they'd like us to grade this out so that we have a sightline distance in that direction. Because they made this driveway be compliant with their sightline regulations and thus be a permitted driveway, Ray and I then felt as though, well, we could clean up the 4 lots on one driveway access point by simply taking one of these, this one is most logical, and placing it across the front of the 4-unit building's lot. So it certainly, in our opinion, it certainly cleans up the subdivision. There's a lot less activity that takes place out here. Now this is just a basic 2-lot backlot subdivision, one frontage lot that takes its access over the front field portion of the 4-unit building. The lots conform to frontage, land area mass, total land area, as well as total uplands. This lot is sized so that each one of the units, the 4-unit building has 2 bedrooms in each one of those, and so there's additional land mass that's required to go with that lot, which is why it's sized the way it is. These lots would be sized as single-family homes and otherwise meets the zoning requirements. We do have a conditional use permit, or what Barrington calls is a 9.6. So there's a wetland here at the front of the site. There's an existing driveway entrance here. And for us to essentially extend our driveway access out to the neck, we have a small amount of buffer impact to that wetland. Once we get out to the beyond the buffer, there's no additional buffer impact that's required for the site to be developed. We've done test pits on site, so we know that we have suitable soils for sewage disposal, well radius requirements, all of those types of things. So there were just enough moving parts on this as part of the design phase that we thought we would file a design review, take any initial comments that the board has, and then move forward to final design and submission this coming month.
Comments? And the abutter access?
Remains the same. We're not proposing to touch that. In fact, it will be safer entrance for them.
Yeah.
Because DOT is requiring that we improve the sightline distance in this location also. So that area would be, vegetation would be removed and grading would take place in that area also.
And you confirm that the underlying access rates are valid for expanding to different lots?
Across the
Yeah.
easement, it's a non-exclusive easement, yes. Yep.
Jamie, do you have any comments? I notice you have a outlining here. Pardon me.
Kristen, you don't mind, do you need any ZBA adjustments?
I think the only potential would be a special use or a special exception for access across somebody else's property, driveway not on your frontage for this particular lot.
That fee title thing is probably, you need a probably exemption for that, waiver for that too.
A subdivision waiver? You mean for this driveway across this lot here? Yeah, potentially, yeah.
Any more comments?
The only question I had was on the, I was just trying to run I was sitting here running the calculation on the lot size for the 4-unit.
Mhm.
Do you do the 130,000 and then?
Plus 80,
80. Yep, okay. I just wanted to.
Yep.
Thanks.
And then you have the upland,
Yeah.
add-ons
the
you have to do.
60,000 for
That's right.
upland.
yeah.
Okay. I thought there'd be more questions.
So, Mr. Chair, sometimes the board feels as though this isn't a subdivision that would trigger, the Article 12, all the special studies. I certainly didn't feel as though there were any additional studies that would be needed, traffic, hydrogeologic, stormwater. Those all seem like studies that don't really pertain to this
What's the
particular
sense of the
subdivision.
board? just a 4-lot subdivision there, so,
Yeah, it's a minor subdivision.
yep,
It's the going
Not
on
too-
to the traffic impact.
right, yeah.
He's involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, just wanted to clear that up. Yeah, so I guess you can proceed with an application if you want.
So we did notice the butters, so I would assume this would be a public hearing as well.
Oh. Right. I will open it to public comment if anybody has any questions on this. Anybody online waving? Okay, closing public comment.
So it would be customary to close the design review phase so that we can then move on
Get a
to
letter out to you.
full
signifying
design.
that, And then you can proceed. So you can get a letter out closing it. Okay. Okay.
Does that require?
Anything else? I mean, this
It
is,
requires a motion to vote and.
yeah, right. I'll make that motion, seconded by
I'll second it.
roll call.
Shepherd, I.
Nap aye.
Jackie and I.
Happy yellow line.
Tessie, aye.
Now that.
Driscoll, aye. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy your night.
Yep. Thanks, Ernie. Next item is design review, continue from September 2nd. This is map 230, lot 4 through 6, and map 243, lots 14 through 18 in the general residential district. And this is continuing the design review.
I was wondering, given the lawyer's input into the design review, I'm wondering if it'd be possible to get the minutes out earlier so I can reread them and make sure they reflected what was actually said. Does that help people or not?
Well, the minutes were available Thursday afternoon. I'm gonna get them earlier. Well, I'm sure you could stop by. I think Barbara has them earlier, at least the minutes.
You could
And
send
just
them
stop
out
by
in
and
draft just
see.
to make
Sometimes
sure.
the minutes for the previous meeting are available. I mean, not in the box, but they can come in and pick up a copy.
Yeah, they can.
Yep.
Or just email them or whatever.
You can download them on,
Yeah, email me, that'd be great.
and they go online usually Thursday around noontime, I guess, or somewhere there. Well, I think he meant in the future. To be able to pick up the minutes from the previous meeting, so it would be for tonight.
That's the hearing. You don't want the workshop, you want the hearing.
Yeah, this,
Okay.
Okay.
Like when you get done on Thursday, we let them know they're ready, so we can have more time to review,
Oh,
as
okay.
opposed to when they go off the packets.
Oh, all right.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Joe Coronati. I'm with Jones Beach Engineers. And I have Josh Manning from Builders, evening, as well as Sergeant Meadows LLC. The last meeting, the board had requested a couple different items from us, which we hopefully have submitted all of them. We recently submitted some updated information regarding the wetland crossings, yield plan, for the yield plan, as well as a wetland delineation report. That's from both Environmental Services. We have a letter from Attorney Pat Canciaco regarding zoning changes. We submitted a financial feasibility letter from Lewis Builders. And we also submitted a complete traffic analysis from Vanessa and Associates for this development. And so those things should all be in your file, hopefully.
Mhm.
It's quite lengthy. This whole package of paper is a double-sided copy of all of that info, so
Right.
lots of reading. We also submitted revised plans. Revised plans included a couple different additions, not too many changes to the plan itself, but we provided plan and profiles of all of the yield plan roadways, showing what the site would look like if it was to be built as a conventional subdivision in conformity with your road standards. We have a 7% maximum grade with a minimum grade of 1%. So we graded all the roads out to meet those requirements, and then provided grading plans showing you what it looked like. The other question that came up, last one, it was the analysis of your lot width to length ratio, the 3:1 length to width ratio requirement. We did provide on pages Y1 and Y2 of our plan set, which are sheets 21 and 22 and 23 of our plan set. That's Y2. There is an Excel style spreadsheet on the plans that outline all of the lots. And we added a couple columns to that, hiding the length, width, and ratio calculation. Thank you. Hopefully I don't have to repeat all that, but I could if you'd like me to.
It'll get picked up somewhere.
All right.
We got
It's
it.
better now.
So we provided, on those pages, we have this table or matrix of all of the lots. At the last three columns, go over the width, the length, and then the ratio of those. We do have 11 lots that do not meet your 3:1 ratio. And then in my response letter, or my cover letter, I guess, I had noted that you do have a lot width ratio requirement in the subdivision regulations. It's noted as, lots shall generally, see how it's worded, should generally not exceed the 3:1 ratio. So it's not a complete mandate of those lots, and the ones that a lot of them pertain to are lots that end up with a lot of wetland in the rear of the lots. Some of these longer lots that just basically go to the middle of this swampy wetland area. These lots, we basically just extended them so that they would close the parcel off. And we do have, all the lots meet your frontage, your lot area, your upland area, contiguous upland and total upland areas. So they're all compliant in that regard. And I feel like we meet the intent of the 3:1, which I understand is a common, I guess, way to size or shape lots out so that you don't get some really obscure shaped parcels when you're doing a subdivision where people can meet the frontage and then have narrow areas that go way out back. And so I think I understand the intent, which is to show clarity of ownership. If these were to be ever lots that we were actually building and developing, then we'd want to make sure that the homes and the homeowners knew where their lot lines were and you didn't have some sort of confusing lot situation. We don't feel that's the case with these, but yet we're just more or less running them out to an area to close off the parcels. The other thing I will note is that if you, just an aside, I guess, with the zoning, that if you have a duplex lot, you have a requirement of 250 feet of frontage. Your 3:1 ratio would have a maximum length of 750. And if you multiply those two numbers together, you don't actually come up with your minimum lot size. So it doesn't necessarily
Past the
compute.
new zoning, but we haven't got to the subdivision things to reflect that. But
Understood.
come back in a couple of years, I mean, they
Right.
catch up.
But
Iron
even
out the little differences here and there, but, so what that does tell you, I guess, is that most of our lots have excess amount of frontage. Because out of the 79 lots proposed, only 11 fall into that category where they don't meet the 3-to-1 ratio. Yet we meet all your other lot sizing requirements. I don't know how you want me to handle the presentation from here. I could go into detail in any one of these things,
At
or
this
we
point,
could.
does anybody on the board have a comment or,
Yeah,
okay?
looking at this is clearly unique. You see how we do subdivisions, you saw one right here, normally it's straightforward, there's wetlands, you can find this, you can. What struck me, and I thank you for all the documents. What struck me about it was wetlands, and while paper they may seem isolated, I imagine there's some activity among them. And as I was thinking about this at the big picture, down to individual, field plan lot, I'm trying to figure out where would you stick, even if you were to get 150 houses here, where would you stick them on? How would you do it? Because what we're seeing, if you look at our best efforts, if you look at Mary Hill, look at a lot of places, when developers are coming in, they're just clear cutting it. Presumably you're going to need 30, 50, 100 acres or something. And I presume you would just clear cut it. And so I'm not quite sure how you manage to protect the environment, even if it is within the bounds of, the distances, how you actually clear cut and going to do that without affecting the almost one wetland specialist in here, because I don't really wondering if that's something you would be willing with somebody like that, maybe help us try to figure out what the, because it's clearly a very, very complex thing. You're gonna have to do regrading, and you're gonna have, I don't know how you do it without really disturbing prime.
Right. I guess we do have, Brendan Walden from Go Environmental is in the room. We have Pat Panciaco, the attorney, also with us, and a host of other people from the applicant side. And I don't know if Brendan can speak to that at all, but I would say that when we get to the final layout of the open space design, you would see a lot more of that detail as to where the homes would be located. I mean, looking at the property generalities, the obvious areas are the front of the parcel. A lot of this is woodland for sure, but there's also a lot of field area in the front. Back is primarily all manicured forest. It's been logged over many forestry management practices. Not clear cut really anywhere. There's almost no, once you get past this wetland crossings for the rear of the site. But most of our development would be right this area in the front, whereas this whole area to the west, northern area, all those areas would be left as open space.
So how much land mass is that? How many?
The whole site's about 512
Those particular
acres.
areas you're talking?
Yeah, we have to meet 60%, so we're looking at 300 acres of open space at a minimum for this. If it's
Hundreds of acres, and where, in essence, I assume you just.
Speak to that a little.
yeah,
As the builder and developer here, we've been doing these type of communities for close to 70 years now. Drive through any of our, you'll see how we do try to leave trees where we can. There's areas of grading and homes that trees do have to come out, but it does make for a better community, and try to sell these homes too, so people like to have some trees left behind. So it's not a go in and completely clear cut. We're gonna look at every tree and see what can be left, when it can be left, and try to work around as many as possible.
Put everything down to a half. Right? You've got a lot of land, and
Yep.
I presume you prefer it's just going and cut what you. I'm just really interested. We can talk about, and we will talk about all the details on this, and we'll argue back and forth. But I want just keeping the bigger picture. How do you do something in those areas that would maintain, because in some cases it's actually bounded by wetlands. Some of the properties in that area are surrounded by wetlands. How do you do this, but protect what is clearly an place? I don't know if it's self or something, but it does curious where the little pieces in the end, I don't even.
Pat Panciaco, I represent Lewis Builders. When you do a project like this,
Could you just push the button to make sure the green light comes on?
it's on.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. When you do a project like this, and as you sift down into the finer details that Joe was mentioning, after you get past the forefront issues like we're dealing with now, there's usually specific areas that are identified of having special value, or they're significant enough that you don't want to touch them. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of those within that 300 acres. But in those situations, what's typically done is a restrictive covenant is put on those areas as no disturb areas. And the association is usually obligated to ensure those are maintained and they remain undisturbed and untouched. I mean, no developer wants to disturb more than they have to, because once they disturb it, they have to restore it. And it also detracts from the community in general. When you clear cut, as you've mentioned, it's really not so attractive to have it wide open. So maintaining all the plants and the areas, and particular areas where there may be certain wildlife nests and whatnot, is something that you can preserve perpetually in a condominium declaration as part of the open space. And you can tie that to penalties too if somebody, breaches that covenant.
The concern is not with the condominium covenant, because that typically does not come into play until it has been developed and it has been accepted through our attorney, you as an attorney, and the state. So during the development, it's free game, and that's the problem. Is we see these developers that are coming in and they are gutting these properties even beyond what they tell us they're going to do when they're here in front of us. And part of that is making sure that that doesn't happen with a property with a parcel of such high value.
In that situation, though, usually if there's something of paramount importance to the board, it's usually identified during the approval process, and it's made a condition of the approval that it has to be preserved. And it's typically put right on the plan. And when that's breached, that's a big problem for the developer.
But it happens.
The problem that I see in this is this is different than other properties that we have, right? We just had somebody come through, do a subdivision, easy. Sometimes we talk about where you go through wetlands and things. But when I look at this, even in this yield plan, you have, 10 different water, protection areas and things like that. Clearly, that alone tells you that you're in a very sensitive area. And I'm just very attuned to that. Because like I said, I don't know how you do this. And if we could get an expert in here, I think it would help us all make a better educated decision about this.
Well,
I don't know what the board says. We've never talked about it.
One of the questions I have is, has the state been approached about the wetlands crossings that are going to be needed here?
Not yet.
Not at this
We're in the yield
Because-
plan
because-
Just
process.
a yield, we're
I
only
am-
at the yield plan level, they'll only review the actual permit. So
I-
once we submit an actual permit, they'll review it, they won't review conceptual yield plans.
I understand, but my concern is your yield plan designates the number of lots that you're going to have. And if the state would not be in agreement with the fact that you have all these crossings, that can dramatically affect the quantity of your yield plan. And I would be remiss to say I would support that without knowing the state supports that end of it.
I know the board brought this up, and which is why we have Brendan here tonight. Brendan will be with us for these meetings, but he wrote in his information about how the state process is handled, and all of these are permittable wetland crossings. He can speak more to it as a wetland scientist.
Yeah, Brendan Walden, Go Environmental. So at base value for all these crossings, it's to gain access to buildable upland, which is a permittable impact at the state level. Where the conversation goes, and as far as going to the state and saying, "Hey, look at all these crossings. Are all of these permittable?" They won't give us an answer. To be honest, they don't say if it's permittable. They'll say, let's submit an application and then we'll review it and have a conversation through that process.
But that my general principle is that's not our issue. That's on the developer to actually sort out, not the board.
I know you from the letter we received from the attorney. I understand you feel like we might be being overly cautious and trying to restrict growth. I don't think anybody in this town would normally use this board as being that. Generally really do try to work with people. And part of what we went through was there's a process that we went through where we actually had the community step back and ask because people are complaining about the development here. We asked, what is it that we're doing that's not right? A lot of it was just the shaping. It's not so much that there's a lot of development. We understand we can't affect that. But it's where it goes and how visible it is. And so some of the very things that were brought up in the lawyer's letter about, for example, having little subdivisions in different areas, actually may be what is going to be most important to this type of plan in the end, right? Because we're going to have to figure out how to do this. And so as I'm looking at this, I still struggle because I don't see even one area. I mean, the one closest to the road is easy, right? And we can work on that. I almost wonder, because you're going to have prime wetland crossings where we're not going to be able to solve. You're going to have, it's going to be a real problem for the town in the future. And I almost wonder if a better way to approach this is to actually take the areas that you think is developable and asking, what is realistic working with wetland people? What is realistic? What's the maximum you can build? And I think that may be more fruitful than us attacking each one of these plots and trying to negotiate that.
And I agree but once we get to the conservation subdivision plan, we're going to do just that. That's the whole point of the yield plan now. We're not going to build this. And to go to that level of detail at this stage is getting ahead of ourselves.
You're using the yield plan as a way to say this is how many houses you want.
Right.
Correct.
And I'm saying maybe we should, instead of doing that, looking at it on paper, maybe we take the opposite approach, which we don't normally do, but I almost wonder if it's better to go and say, well, these are the areas where we feel we can develop. Let's try to figure out what the maximum amount is in there, working with wetland scientists and people to really try to figure out what that is.
May I interrupt? Sure. That's the person you're speaking of. He's the wetland scientist that's saying this works. I spent a fair amount of time reading the wetland rule book for DES. And I'm certainly not a lawyer, but parsing out the bits and pieces, it basically says time and money, if you have land to get to, you may have to spend a tremendous amount of money to mitigate, remediate, and put back. There's swapping from you impacted this, now you build it over here. If you got to build the General Sullivan to get across, you got to build the General Sullivan to get across. So very rarely do they say no, but they will try to steer you in a different direction. So the wetland scientist they hired is the person you're referring to to tell you the plan is, he would have to submit the documents to get this through, and he thinks he can get that. To have a second one that you hire, might have a different.
Is put because it's so environmentally sensitive, just flip the process on it and say, where is the place really that you could develop and what is the maximum?
He's showing you right now. Anybody that has done the rules, gone through the process, knows that it's a dollar number.
Sure, and I'm gonna say, then fine, there's things on here, we can go after each lot and everything, but, you know, all those mitigation things that you have in there, I'm gonna say, well, you think you can sell that as together on the property? You have, you know, these things in property boundaries, right? If you really think that that's the way you wanna go, maybe that's the way.
Well, one, you got to refer to your regulations and what's in the regulations that you can then look at. But just, I don't understand what your point is to, a 15-acre piece with 30 acres of wetlands that you couldn't sell to somebody? Was that the comment?
Well, I'm just saying there's a yield plan. We can go through and knock through each of these, but the area is so sensitive. The question to me is not how many houses can I put in there based upon paper. The question is how many houses can I put in there that's not gonna fundamentally disturb the wetland habitat around it.
And that's what I'm trying to say. With that WEQ from the state, their mitigation efforts would be, if they were to build this and they wanted to cross that wetland, the state's going to say, this is what you've got to do to not disturb or impact that wetland any more than it is. It has to remain the same in the end. And so that can be, you build a new pond over here to recreate it in a different location. It could be a remediation. It could be all these different things. So it's just a dollar figure in the end to get to uplands. It's not, you know, and I imagine there's a case that they say no. But so parsing out what's in your regulations is definitely within the purview of this board. But you're talking about the wetland scientist that's going to tell you what he thinks he can do is trying to tell you. The other piece I want to say about the timber, just to be clear, any property owner can use best management practice and clear cut their land. And so preserving after the development.
That's not completely accurate. They can do it, but they have to get it permitted.
Of course, yeah, they tend to cut and they do the timber tax and pay, but it's not regulated from this board and in the way that you're discussing. And, you know, as we've talked in the past, our road slopes cause some of the clear cutting that you see on developments. You know, some of the regulations that we have impact the need to clear cut to regrade roads. So keeping that in mind, what a property owner has a right to do before the development, and then what, like the lawyer had contemplated, you know, after the development, you can put in all the restrictions you want, and that's the appropriate time. But keeping in mind that before it happens, trees can be removed. In best management practice, they go into wetlands all the time and clear trees. It's, you know, unfortunate, but it's the nature of the logging business.
I think one of my concerns is when I look at the yield plan and I look at the designation and the lot sizes, I would be hard pressed that some of these lots could actually be usable or sustainable lots. And I'll use, for example, like lot 17, when you look at your well radius, when you look at your setbacks off the road, when you look at your setbacks from your wetlands, it strikes me without like really getting down through it. That's a tight lot to fit in. And when I look at where the leaching
point, lot 17, I mean, I know the scale here is a little skewed because you're looking at 500 acres on one sheet, but
right,
lot 17 is 6.6 acres.
The lot is large, but it is mostly wetlands. And when I look at where the leaching field is, it's in the setback.
It meets all your setbacks.
It meets all the setbacks. It meets all your requirements for a building lot. And it actually meets all your requirements for a duplex lot. So it more than meets it for a single family.
The duplexes are comparable to what you're doing in Epping. Is that what you're proposing? About 84 feet by 55 feet.
Right now, it's just a lot that's sized to accommodate a 2-unit building.
Right.
The specific of that building is still.
Yeah, I guess what Andy is saying, if he tries to drop that in there, something
Right.
larger than the 4,000 square foot.
It's tight.
Some
Or at
of them
least
look
it feels tight when I try to scale it.
In general, the smallest lot size on here is what, 4.8 acres? So
Yeah.
we're talking about.
Well, we're
maybe
looking
clearing
about
an acre to
contiguous
build.
uplands,
Right.
building envelope. That's what we're looking at.
But in general, to the point about wetland protections and buffers, we're looking at a 4.8 acre lot, 79 of them. And if, at best, we'd be lucky to disturb an acre to build that building. So you're getting 4 acres of open space essentially on every one of these lots. We're not, even though we're not looking at it as an open space subdivision at this point, You've also got 75-foot wetland buffers everywhere for buildings that are being maintained. But there's plenty of land on every one of these lots. They're adequately sized.
You have a 100-foot
In some
buffers
wetlands,
from the
right.
prime.
Yep.
The thing I wanted to also add about the wetland crossing discussion is that we've crossed prime wetlands on developments. We've crossed many streams.
Yep.
These are not
Well, that would be
insurmountable.
discussion when you do the conservation subdivision. Part of the problem we have here is usually until this new zoning, concurrently, we saw both plans. Now, obviously, both of them are in flux at that point, particularly the conservation subdivision, but at least we had a view of where there would be, thinking about Oak Hill, where it ended up 25 acres was given to the town. But on the yield plan, it showed that having houses and everything on it. So we're kind of at a loss from what we typically have done, but I mean, that's, the way the zoning was designed by our consultants, so that's why you're getting a lot of these questions.
Understood,
You
yeah.
seem to be jumping ahead, but we've always looked at both at the same time. We have the yield plan here and the prospective conservation subdivision in the other hand, so.
But I think this is better, because I think this plan is so complicated. I think taking it two steps instead of one step is better.
Oh, yeah.
Well, back on the, things you addressed, I brought up the 3-to-1. I'm satisfied with the explanation. If you got 250, shortening the lot to make it 3-to-1 doesn't make any sense. Making the lots, so I'm definitely satisfied with that. What I'm not satisfied with was reply on financial feasibility. You got 25 lots in the back that are accessed across the brook and the creek. And I think you call them impact area 1 and 4. And so the crossing, one would have to have a 17 feet bridge, basically, another the 20-foot bridge. So Green Hill Road, so you get 25 lots, that's probably worth over $5 million. So it's a good chunk of money. But Green Hill, they just put a bridge in, that cost over $3 million. Now, I'm sure you can get it done for a lot less than the town. But still, you're talking about accessing 25 lots that are $5 to $6 million with 2 bridges, a bunch of infrastructure, sensitive areas that require a lot of stormwater management, stormwater attenuation and treatment. So those 25 lots, when I wasn't talking about financial feasibility of the whole project. We don't care about that. I hope you make a lot of money. But when a conventional plan, we want to say, when you say, I would do this, but instead I'm going to do this. And then that many, I want to know you really would do that. And I don't believe those back 25 lots would be financially reasonable for you guys.
Yeah, I think if it was a standalone, smaller subdivision, I would agree with you. But in a project like this, we look at infrastructure as the whole project. It's one kit and caboodle, so if that bridge is more expensive there, well, we're gonna make it up on the straight sections of the road where there are no bridges. So it's the whole development, not just one section of the development.
But what I was looking for is, your estimate of the cost would be to access those 25 lots. And if it exceeds the value of the lots, then you wouldn't build that. And therefore, those aren't the number of lots we're gonna give you in the conservation subdivision. If you're only gonna do that many lots in a conventional, due to financial considerations, then that's the maximum number of lots you're gonna get. So, and that wasn't, you really didn't answer that.
When we're budgeting projects like this, we look at the whole project infrastructure, total cost of the project, total number of lots.
We're looking at the
not
25 lots.
the
What is the
specifics.
cost to reach those? Is it financially feasible to develop those lots?
Yeah,
And you guys do that all the time.
The
So
other
that's
thing
the
I'll bring
information we're
up
looking
is
for. I'm looking for.
the Wetlands Bureau has been changing the rules constantly over the last 10 years, and they have required us to cross these streams and waterways differently than these builders have ever had to do it in the past. I mean, the old days of putting in a 36-inch culvert, corrugated metal culvert, are kind of gone. These guys have been putting in box culverts on every job for 20 years now, and the box culverts are getting bigger and bigger. And the days when people used to say, I can't do a bridge. Now these bridges come precast right out of the manufacturer.
42-foot span.
Right.
Well, I mean,
Because
But that, you're
unfortunately,
talking culvert, when you're talking 17 feet and 20 feet, to me, you're talking a bridge.
Right.
I mean, to me.
Right,
And-
but I'm just saying they're not as expensive as you
It's a
might think
concrete box culvert.
they are.
Then tell me what you think it's gonna cost and what the infrastructure costs are gonna be, and justify
Well, I
those
can get the
25
costs
lots.
of all of them.
Our
One of my
regulations
friends
say
is
it's
the
gotta be
vice
reasonable and
president for
feasible.
Oldcastle. I
Realistic
know
and
the
feasible.
cost of all of these.
Right, so they're not insurmountable, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's why,
I'm saying you can do it, but the question is, would you do it if it's a conventional subdivision? And if you wouldn't do it because it's not
have
cost
to.
effective,
We wouldn't.
then we're not gonna give you that credit for those lots in a conservation subdivision. If you would do, 150 lots of the conventional, really do it, and it makes sense financially, then sure, 150 lots will be on the conservation. But if you wouldn't do that in a conventional, then you shouldn't get credit for that many lots in a conservation. And right now, you did a good job on the 3-to-1, great job on that. Not so much on the other question I asked. So that, to me, is still an issue that should be addressed.
well, I guess our side's telling you that they would do it.
We'd do the whole 79 lots that are there would be feasible as it's laid out. If it's all in one project,
be
not looking at the project in different piece by piece. We could break down piece by piece all day long and argue about each section, but that's not the intent.
You're telling me if you did that project and those back lots were clearly not cost effective because of the cost of infrastructure and the bridges to get there, you would do it anyway?
Well, sometimes you
Wouldn't
have
do
to do.
it. You wouldn't do it.
No, sometimes you have to do road connectivity. You can't overlook road connectivity. Sometimes these guys build roads they don't want to build because you have to have two ways in and out. Or a loop.
You guys are perfect to ask this question. How much would you spend to get access to those 25 lots? That's the question. How much money would
But
you?
we're not looking at 25 lots. We're looking at 79 lots as one.
I'm asking you,
project.
how much would you spend to access those 25 lots? With the infrastructure and the two
It'd be a
bridges?
pro forma. I'd have to do the math and crunch
That's
the
fine,
numbers.
but that's
I
my
think
question.
it's short-sighted to look at it piecemeal, different area by the project.
Sometimes
It's
I'm
the whole,
short-sighted.
it's the whole
Sometimes I'm
project.
short-sighted.
If the town were to accept this, right, these roads, there's a huge debt that's gonna be a future debt to the town of trying to fix this. And we're already dealing with $12 million, which is more than I think a lot of people here confirm. I don't even know, all these stormwater management systems, bridges, everything. No.
He's on.
What's up?
He was on. They're dying out.
Yeah, my died out.
Did it again?
I don't know. That's why I think it's almost better to do the end forward than this, but I guess. I don't know what everyone thinks.
But our regulations specifically try to get, what would you really do with conventional? What would you really do? And if that's what you'd really do, that's what we'll give you in the conservation. But if you wouldn't do it, you don't get credit for those lots. If it's theoretical, I'm willing to spend I'm willing to put a sky bridge in for one lot in the back. You clearly wouldn't do that. What I'm saying is, what's the cost to access those 25 lots? And if it's more than would be financially viable for you guys, you wouldn't do it in a conventional. Tell me you would. Wouldn't access those back lots because it wouldn't pay off. You guys are in business to make money. I'm happy you guys are making money. I know what but that's the job, to make money. And if it didn't pay back, you wouldn't do it. So if you wouldn't do it, you can't get credit for those lots in conservation.
So how do we move forward with this
We
impasse?
say we can do it.
We say we can do it.
Well, then show me the money.
It's all part of the letter, I believe.
It said you're gonna talk to the Attorney General. It didn't give me any numbers. It didn't answer
It
the
doesn't
question at
break
all.
anything out. There's no scale on it. Doesn't say anything.
I mean, we could put hard numbers together to show you.
We're not gonna do that. We're done. We're saying we can do it, we can do it. And something.
I mean, we tell you what our capabilities are to be able to do projects like this and.
Not open a public comment.
I don't know. Not open a public comment.
No, we're not, right. Are you a principal of this group? Okay.
How you doing? Harold Morris with Lewis Builders. Sitting back, listening to everybody talking. I think we need to clarify, this is a yield plan. There's a lot of discussion about what will a project that was finished look like. This is a yield plan. We're telling you this is what we could build out there. You force us to build this, we'll go build it. The 25 lots you talk about, like Josh has told you a couple times already, we'll look at that project as a whole, we run our numbers, we need all those lots. If it's 25 2-unit building lots,
Correct.
so it's 50 units. We'll get out there for 50 units, okay? We'll make it happen. So what we're telling you is, this is what a yield plan, this is what we're asking for. This is what we need to make this project work. And now, earlier you're talking about conservation and trying to protect wetlands and stuff. A conservation project's gonna do that. So if you give us these lots, we're gonna go do a nice conservation project, and we're gonna come back to you and ask you if you could look at the 100 foot you ask us to put between 8 units. We're gonna say, do you really need 100 feet between 8 units, or can we shrink that down so we can save more land? These are things we wanna work on with you, but we gotta get through this plan. And this is what a yield plan is. You guys are going off on all these tangents about, what do you wanna do, what do you wanna do, can you do? When we're telling you, we'd build that project, you make us build it. We don't want to, it's a lot of road. We don't want to, we would. So, it's a he said, she said, or what you think would be feasible, what we think would be feasible.
I'm not saying
We're the
what I
builder, and we say we'd make this work.
I'm saying you guys do this all the time, show us the numbers, what you do.
Josh did that already. We said we can make it work. We've done it. We did that. We're asking you to approve this yield plan so we get to work. This guy needs some work to do.
Not my job to put them to work.
Yeah, that's not.
I know, I want to put him to work. Yeah, but at the end of the day, this is a yield plan. You guys, you want to, talk about traffic, all these different things coming in. We got to get past this phase. This is the yield plan. This is it. There's 500 plus acres here. We're asking for 79 2-unit building lots, 79 on 500 acres. You guys realize what you're getting here? You guys should all be begging us to get this done as quick as we can. I drove up 125. You're putting up all new commercial buildings. You got big business going in town. Where are these people going to live? You got all these commercial businesses in town. Where these people go shop at those businesses. You people should be asking us how quick we can get this done. Why aren't we already building it? That's what you all should be doing as planning people. You should look at the whole big picture of your town. Not because this is out in the middle of, out in the tip of the town, and there's all kinds of nice wetlands around it. It's a beautiful piece of property. And the best thing we can do is get this built and preserve all that property.
Understand what this property is. It's probably number one in the whole 48 acres, 48 square miles of Barrington. This is the most important.
Yes, I know. It's a beautiful piece of property.
Right.
So we're going to put all the houses in a nice, tight little area.
Like you're confused by the reaction to this whole thing.
I mean, it's shocking.
You have to understand.
Well, if I would say we're going to build 150 units on Boston Common, what would there would be a reaction?
No big deal, right? Yes. But at the end of the day, a conservation plan, and if you work with us, we'll really squeeze them down and get them as close and keep as much land as we can. If you work with us, we have no problem putting them close together. People don't mind living next to each other. All right, but you have to work with us and get this going.
But our voters voted and said they do mind about that. That's why our lot.
Well, because you guys put it before them. This board put it before them. So the voters went along with it, sure.
Feedback that they've given us.
Yeah, maybe.
There's no, maybe.
It's not maybe.
It's up to you guys to give them feedback and say.
60% of our town voted in favor, more than 60%.
Yeah, it was like 62.
In favor of changing that regulation, which means I don't care what we put forward, it is there to meet what the voters of this town desire.
For years, we've been hearing this from them.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're the ones that live here. We all live in this town day in and day out.
Yeah.
We're not coming in here blowing it up to make a pile of money and moving on. We're here to make sure that the character, the preservation, the master plan of our town are actually lived up to and respected, because that's what the people here want. So somebody coming in and, pardon the expression, but telling us we should be begging that to happen is not going to happen, sir. We are here to preserve what the townspeople want. And that's what we're going to do. So if this takes 2 years to sort it out and all of us be in agreement, then we're all going to sit here and go through that until we hit that position.
We took 2 years with a 23 lot subdivision.
I don't want to hear that you took 2 years with a 23 lot subdivision, because we were not going to take 2 years on this project to get this plan approved.
Yep.
All right, if you're telling us you're going to take that long to get a yield plan done, then we're wasting our time talking to you.
The regs say 2 meetings.
We're going to ask you to approve this tonight. If you don't approve it, then we'll take our next step.
which is
Well,
what?
I mean,
You'll see.
I agree with you. Further,
That feels,
Brad?
that makes me uneasy when you
Any
say
way you
that.
want to take it.
So I'm.
What do you, what is our recourse? You tell me, what is our recourse if you deny this plan?
But
What is our recourse? You tell me. I think you already know what the recourse
I'm
is.
sitting here and I feel like you're asking me to take a leap of faith, that this is the amount of structures go on here. How do I know this? I feel like you haven't.
First of all, we've done a ton of work to get this plan done.
Yeah, and you give me this picture
test
that
pit
shows
on every one of
so
these
much
lots.
water and wetlands on this property. That makes me nervous.
Sure,
And then I
sure.
see.
Setbacks and.
But it's
But that's the problem.
the scale of it, though. It's the scale of it.
Is what makes it unique in this area.
Right.
And that's what, and it affects the whole watershed, right? This is a
But you-
prime piece of property.
But you realize how much the town and the state makes sure protect all this stuff these days? You have any idea? You see these projects go in, they put these big ponds in that seem like what are they doing? Because they're making you clean this water up all the time. This project will have a ton of those ponds. So this is all stuff that's being taken care of at the state level. It's being done.
The state of New Hampshire is not on the cutting edge of
Approve this plan and Joe will get to work
protection.
on giving you a good plan to look at. You can deny that plan later on. You can say, no, it doesn't work. But when you see the plan, I think you'll appreciate it. I really do. And Josh has told you, this company's been in business since 1958. All right? Fourth generation family. My son's sitting out here in the audience. Fourth generation. We stand behind what we do. We do a great job. Okay?
Thank you.
So,
Sir, can I get your name? We missed your name for the
my
record,
name is
please.
Harold Morse.
Thank you.
Yep. M-O-R-S-E.
Thanks.
Any other questions for me?
No.
Thank you
No, I
for your
just want to
time.
make one point quickly. I know when it comes to affordable housing, you guys are the good guys and we're the bad guys. But this project represents 5% more than 5% of the population of Barrington. And that's why you're getting the scrutiny you get.
5%?
We're 10,000, we're less than 10,000. So if you put in, you've got over 500 people, right? So
500 people and 150 units?
It's-
Usually two and a half for a regular house is 2.5 for a regular house.
It's a
That's
two-bedroom.
over 500 people. That's over 500 people. It's a ton of people. And it's on the fringe of the town, so that's why there's a lot of concern.
Well, I think it's unwarranted concern I mean, it really is. I mean, you can say, oh, it's on, all this stuff, but all that stuff's gonna get worked out in the planning process. Whether it's fire or it's, police, all these things these are all gonna come up. We're gonna have to address all that. We understand that. This is a yield plan we want to get beyond, so we can get to that point. We're more than happy to talk to you about all those things, because I'm sure you're gonna want to take all those things under consideration. We understand that. This isn't our first plan. But a yield plan typically is you put it on paper, you don't go out and dig test pits and all. We dug a test pit in every one of these already. So we had to drive around the whole thing, your point, disturbing the property. But we did test pits so we could prove that these lots work.
How'd you get out to do a test pit on lot 17
Excavator.
or lot 19? Drove it across the wetland?
Yep. Sure did. And back again.
There's lots of existing crossings on this property.
Yeah, there's existing crossings out there anyway. I don't know if you realize, have anybody been out here? This is a beautiful piece of property as far as the previous owner put 12 miles of woods roads out there. It's really beautiful.
No, I appreciate all the work.
And we will leave, think about how much is gonna get left, that's already surrounded by conservation lands. So, I mean, we would appreciate you helping us out and getting going on that, that's all. Do what you gotta do, but to sit here and say it's gonna take 2 years to get this done,
He didn't say
Not
that. He
gonna
said
work.
it took 2 years for 23 lots.
but even 6 months, I mean, listen, this is what it is, it's 500 plus acres. You're asking for 78 lots,
I guess we'll see.
79 lots. 79 lots. 500, over 500 acres, 79 lots. It's not that difficult.
Well, I guess maybe we should pull the board. To me, the regulations we put in specifically are to address that the conventional subdivision would be realistic and cost effective. And that would define the number of units that we would allow in conservation. I'm hearing they don't want to do that. That's what I'm hearing. So,
I'm just wondering though, so what it sounds like they're gonna do is gonna go back and create their subdivision as they want it. So maybe
well,
where.
the question is, his question is, do we accept the yield plan? And to me, at this point, I'm saying no.
Well, that's public comment and go.
I mean, that's what I was saying, maybe we should poll the board, see where, that's where I'm at. I don't know if the rest of the board's that way.
But no, I don't think it would pass a feasibility study.
Can you describe what the feasibility study is for them?
I'm looking for the cost of 2 bridges, the cost of the infrastructure, all the stormwater management devices versus the market value of those 25 lots.
Are you looking for a line-by-line itemized bridge or
Well,
2.7 million in bridge work, 3 million in road work? And we're gonna, each lot's worth 300,000. We got 21 million to play with. We got 5 million in profit.
25 lots worth 250 apiece, whatever, something like that, very, very.
Just so
basic.
it's clear if they're gonna
Yeah,
move
very
forward with that, what you want as opposed to, they're saying they can do it and that's feasible. You're saying that's not enough. What you want in a,
I'm agreeing it's doable, it's feasible. I think it's realistic.
Right,
Our
because
regulations call for realistic.
in line with what Ron is saying, and the gentleman sitting here from Lewis Builders, is he's saying he essentially is dollar cost averaging that over the whole project.
Sure.
So for me to do it here. So I think
There's a
what
reasonable
Ron.
way to do it.
I think it's the only way to do it.
Hold on a second. So what I believe is that Ron's asking for, and what I would also ask for, is I would love to see the build out that when you break that all out for the cost of infrastructure, calculated across the lots, does it come out at under $250,000 a lot or at right at $250,000 a lot? Because you're not going to loss lead a lot and then
Right.
try and make it up on the
You're
house.
saying
You have
if
a
they got
value.
150 lots, selling them for 600,000, they get $90 million.
No.
And then you have to, what are your inputs?
I'm saying if you've got 150 lots and you break them out,
This is so-
the cost of the lot is, say, if we say the value of a lot, the average value of a lot in Barrington is $200,000 for a lot, just the lot. When you put in the infrastructure to get there, does it give you $200,000 a lot? And then when you add in the value of a house, that's really where that's where they're going, because the value for them is not so much in the land, it's in the value of the house. And there's either a makeup on that gets them to what shows that it's a profitable line item, or you're still in the red.
Well, but if they do the house, then you gotta talk about including the costs of.
yeah, and that's not what,
Landscaping, driveway.
right, the
well,
regulations say infrastructure to build it. So if they say where they got 10 million in infrastructure costs and 20 million in net income, and there's 11 million in profit left, you're gonna accept that?
I wanna know, to me, this is about identifying the number of lots that are reasonable. And to me, I question whether those back 25.
But it's not the back. You gotta do it over the whole thing, you know? You
It is
can't
an
say,
entire project.
is that one lot not feasible? No, I mean, it's.
I agree with you, but from the standpoint of a yield plan, if you're proving that you can do it and you would still build it, that would be the way to.
But if you were doing a subdivision plan, it was more profitable to lose 25 lots in the back and do all of them in the front. That's the way you would do it.
But you've got to have something to work from to actually make that calculation.
And if your feasibility is feasibility, and whether they make $1 at the end and you agree or not, they made a profit. And that's the end of should be the end of the discussion, not what's the amount of profit you expect them to make. I mean, if you want them to show that they're making.
I've worked with a lot of developers and they do exactly what he was saying. It's the whole project.
Right. And I mean.
At the end of the day, conservation subdivision or not, could they build this? Could they make a profit? Yes or no? And that's
right. If
that's
you
the
can't,
end.
right. If you can't
And they
make a
don't-
profit,
they don't break it out into
No.
sections.
But
like
if you
that.
right.
So.
But if we're trying to define the number of lots that it would be.
Oh, I totally hear the argument.
We're not trying to say the project's prospect overall.
But-
We're trying to decide whether they would actually build a conventional subdivision.
No, I know.
Accessing those lots in the back. That's to me, the question.
Ron, if you actually did this out, the question is could you even get it to the point where it'd be profitable without doing a conservation subdivision? And I don't know if you could actually build this conventionally.
Well, this plan, as it's laid out, is 21,000 feet of road.
Right.
That's expensive.
Yeah.
But
And then-
but it's only on the yield plan.
Right, but this is, the purpose of a conservation subdivision is to show that you could and would do a conventional, but you're choosing to do a conservation, or you're asking the board to allow you to do a conservation subdivision in place of it for the purpose of preservation.
Yeah,
But to
me-
Ron's point, you have to show that you could actually build this out in a reasonable and affordable manner.
No, I mean, I take it even.
Would they be willing to share the financial feasibility of this subdivision?
No.
As it is
No.
right there to show that it's financially feasible? He's saying it is.
But that is
We
a
don't see the
requir-
numbers. Would you be willing to
But I
share
don't-
that?
Financial feasibility is a requirement of our
I
regulation.
have a question for you. Where is the definition of feasible, realistically viable? Where is it? Where are the standards
I think it
whereby
came
you-
out of a Supreme Court decision in New Hampshire in Amherst,
I
I'm
don't-
thinking.
it's not in your regulations? It doesn't tell the public
Pam?
or the developer
Yep.
what's expected or what he has to show.
It's referenced in the actual, when we put together the proposal and the regulation, it's all referenced.
It's not in the ordinance. I looked for it.
doesn't have to be in the
It
ordinance, ma'am.
absolutely
It
does.
is in
You
the
have to put the developer on notice.
Feasible and realistic isn't a road.
My next question is, are you against conservation subdivisions? Would you rather see a conventional product?
Absolutely
Because
not.
based on the amendments you made last year, it sure doesn't look that way.
No, what it does is it ensures that we're not being taken advantage of as
Yeah,
a
we've
town.
just-
Okay, so now what other development projects that come before this board do you ask for personal cost information on what it's going to cost for them to make the improvements?
Several.
No, I have a question. I want to understand where you're coming from.
This only passed in March,
I understand that, and maybe there is a few kinks in it.
and you're the first one to come in under this use.
Well, I thought you had one that had 25 lots. Was that
I
the
know,
other
that was
regulations?
2 years ago.
Oh, well, we're the
Just
first.
suggesting
So how do you ask for that from this developer when no other commercial project or a conventional subdivision, unless you're taking the road where you have a right to ask for it, do you ask for that kind of information?
Are you implying that you're saying that the town or that the developer would retain the road, and even though it would be built to a town road standard, the town would not be required to take over the road?
I think that was something that's up for grabs. We hadn't determined all that yet. But in your regulations, or even in the statute, where does it say under 674-36 or 674-21 that you get to ask them to prove that it's reasonable and feasible and economically viable?
Well, you know.
Where in your enabling statutes does it say you can ask for that information?
Because, ma'am, you have a choice to build a conventional subdivision or a conservation. It is not a right to build a conservation subdivision. It is a choice.
I
to build
understand that.
So because we are allowing a conservation subdivision, it is our right to ask for that by choice.
So we have
Legal
to,
counsel for
d-
our-
we have to give you all our financial records and prove that we can afford to build this?
No.
To
No,
use
that's
this?
not what we said.
I'm not worried about.
You
the
need to
project.
be
I'm worried
specific.
about- I want to do a feasible lot count. So I'm only talking about those 25 lots. To me, that's all I'm looking for. Tell me that you would actually do those lots in a conventional. If you would, I'll give you credit for them in a conservation. But if you wouldn't, you know, the conservation gives you a lot of advantages, a lot of infrastructure, there's a lot of advantages to it. But it shouldn't be more lots than you would do with a conventional. It shouldn't be more lots. It should be the same number of lots you would actually do in a conventional. That's what we're going to allow you to do in a conservation. So I'm questioning those back 25 lots. I'm saying, I don't think you would do them. Now, I may be wrong, but, you know, I don't have the figures and I don't have the.
Well, it's hard to discern, as they say they're looking at the totality of everything, rather than the
But
breaking
this
into
is.
pieces. I know, I'm just telling
No,
you.
let me finish. We're only looking at the lot, how many lots we would allow. So the totality of the project to me doesn't matter. It's only the number of lots that we allow. So I'm questioning specific lots,
But if you're-
25 lots.
My mindset is if we're looking at totality, I want to see the dollars and cents for
I don't-
totality.
I don't think you're entitled to
I
that.
think it's a combination of information.
No,
That's
you're
fine.
crossing a line here. You don't ask that of other applicants, and you don't have the authority under the statutes to ask for their financial information.
We have the
We're not
right,
asking for
according to our
specific
ordinances,
financial.
To ask whether.
You haven't been specific, though. You have no definition, no guidelines, nothing in your ordinance that advises the applicant of what they have to submit to prove this to you, other than their depth of experience over years since the 50s and making that representation to you.
But I hope you do appreciate, though, that this lot is so unique and bad.
Oh, I absolutely do, sir.
That's why, you may be facing more hurdles here as well, right?
But they bought it. Anybody else could have bought it too.
Yep.
Okay?
They would
They
go through
got
the
it
same-
first.
They would go,
Okay.
anyone else would go through the same thing that your
And
applicant
I'm not
is.
saying anything different. If somebody else
Fine.
wanted it more, they could have bought it, but these guys bought it.
And I want to see, how do you assess the feasibility of somebody having on their lot stormwater management systems that they have to manage? How do you put into the pricing of a house a private road that you have to maintain the bridge on?
I
right?
do it
There's-
all
there's a
we do that all the time. We do it all the time, absolutely. There's a budget established, there's a stormwater management plan incorporated into the declaration of condominiums. The homeowners association has to have somebody, all that is taken care of.
But it's a huge amount of obligation, future financial obligation.
For who?
Do you have a similar project like this that you've done somewhere else? that we
Not
could
this,
review?
not this big, but with the same types of things. I just did one in another town.
Study you could send us or something
A study of what?
of what you've done or examples? I'm just trying to.
We do it all the time.
Yeah, I cited it in my letter to the board, all of our previous projects that we've built. It was our
Right.
history.
Have dealt with prime, wetlands and aquifer districts.
We deal with those all
All
over
the
the
time.
state.
Every town's got them nowadays.
This is what they do.
Have you kept control of the roads and not turned them over to towns?
We've done both.
You've
yeah.
done both?
Yeah.
Do you know what you're planning to do with this one?
We haven't got that far. Once we get to the conservation subdivision stage, you take a harder look at
Because
that.
I'm reluctant, I would vote no.
It's a
to giving it to the.
huge burden
It's
for
a
their.
huge burden. I'm very uncomfortable with, even with Oak Hill, I think we took on too much burden.
I would also like to have legal counsel for our board.
Yeah,
I don't know
think we
how
need
other
it.
people
I
feel
need
that
Yeah,
way.
once we get to the conservation phase, it's most likely going to be a condominium, which would be private roadways that they would maintain.
So you would not be asking, I know you're not
Right.
sure.
Right
Yeah.
now, we're showing a town right of way on this plan because it's conventional for the yield plan purpose. But once we get to that next stage.
Right.
Yeah, it'd most likely be private.
And that would not be any problem for the town if that's the case. That is one of the benefits of doing a conservation subdivision. Aside from the land that's put aside and all the preservation that goes with it. I mean, at
That's
this
not
point,
actually accurate.
That hasn't happened so
No.
far.
Because, so ma'am, once it has been built to town road standards, we often end up in a situation where we end up being forced into owning the road.
there's measures that can be taken to avoid that also. Your attorney will tell you that if I
It's gotta
think,
be, right, it's gotta,
Pay for future
it's gotta
maintenance.
be,
We could build it to a narrower standard and then you wouldn't have to.
that's right,
But
because
they-
we couldn't comply.
You
But,
have many,
yeah,
you
then it
have
wouldn't
so
comply
many
with it,
avenues
yeah.
not to have to take over the roads when there's a condominium. Because condominium roads don't have right-of-ways.
Right.
You add right-of-ways and then you add front setbacks. Usually the homes won't meet the setbacks. So
Right.
therefore you can't take them over. But there's notes that we can put into condominium docs, on the
Yep.
plans. There's all sorts of avenues to help the town against that. And I don't know of any, I mean, they just did one in Epping. They're finishing it up. It's bigger than this one. It's 168 units. And it's
Those are all private roads.
all private roads, all two-bedroom units in that case, on that site, and very low tax impact. It's actually a huge tax positive.
Yep.
Because it's no impact to the town for the roads. two-bedroom units. That's in the one in Epping. I'm not saying that's the one
Right.
here. I'm just saying that ended up being very tax positive. And there's not room for front setbacks. In that case, those driveways are 25 feet long.
Right.
And the front of the homes would almost be in the right of way. So it's not feasible to take it over, but.
With a project this big, though, I can understand with a board, and Bernie may remember a project in Raymond that we worked on, you were town planner, and the board had council sit at most of the meetings. And she was, I think, a great guide for the board because the project was quite large. But there's so many parts and pieces to this piece of land. Maybe that's the answer. But what I am going to say is there is not a lot of guidance in your regulations. A yield plan is supposed to identify the usable land that's available to create lots. And why is it not okay that they rely upon the usable land and the number of lots they can create conventional to determine conservation number of lots? We shouldn't have to engineer this 100% and turn around and submit financial reports to this board to pursue an ordinance which I think you favor because you get an awful lot of conservation land out of it, but perhaps not. But there is no guidance in your ordinance at all to advise them of what's reasonable, feasible, or viable. And it's not reasonable for the board to ask for them to submit financial reports. That's just beyond your authority, and it's not something you put other applicants through. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I just talked to Ernie. Prior to the next meeting where we discuss this, we'll have our attorney available for comment on this. Sense? Everybody agree on that? Consensus? Okay. I had one question on the traffic plan. It's not on the plan, well, it is on the plan itself. It's under the description, project description on page 2. And it seems to indicate by the wording, the project will entail a construction of 158 residential units that will consist of either townhouses or duplex, style duplex buildings or single-family homes. That's on page 2 of the.
That's on the Vanessa and Associates.
Yeah.
Traffic.
Yeah.
I would say that the word townhouse should not have been.
Well, it's the question of the mixed use. You can't mix uses.
Right. Yeah, we were looking, we weren't sure exactly what we were gonna bring forward.
Yeah, either
finally.
or, but the
We looked
language
at the
seems to
worst case
suggest
scenario.
you can do a little bit of each.
It's understood that we can't mix them.
And then it says the mix could also include, I guess what you're trying to say, if we agree on the 158 units in the duplex, that also means you could have 158 single-family homes, essentially putting 2 single-family homes on each of the 79 lots, which of course you can't do. But I think, but they carried that throughout the document, determining the the average daily trips. And it kind of skewed it, right?
Yeah, they used 158 for the single-family homes for the traffic analysis.
Right.
And that,
yeah, I mean,
but
they
we
did, the
do-
correct one was they did the duplex. I understand that's it. And that's what drives, it's over 1,000 trips per day, which kind of means you'd have to go to a collector road. But the way I read it, they also did the 158 single families, which of course you can't do, so.
well, yeah, we feel that the 79 duplex lots determines the yield of units, not the style of construction.
Meaning what? You think you could get more than 79 single-family homes on this?
Correct. We could do 158 units, whether they're duplex or single family.
Well, I disagree on that
condominium
one.
form of ownership.
The yield plan would not be the same a yield plan for single-family lots would not be the same as duplex lots because the calculation, the single-family lot would be another 130,000 as opposed to that add-on for the second unit on a duplex lot. So the yield plan would be slightly different on single-family calculations.
Yeah, you'd have to do a whole new
The
yield
yield
plan.
plan creates a number of units. It doesn't specify whether we're gonna build.
I think we changed ours to lots, so that wouldn't be misconstrued because of that. Because the yield plan wouldn't be the same for a single-family lot. You'd have to do 130,000 for each single family with the requirements, where that you get that little kicker for the second unit on a duplex that, changes the yield plan a little bit. So I think we changed the language in zoning to say lots or vice versa, so that situation doesn't take place. So to propose a yield plan, if you want to do single-family yield plans with single-family layouts would be the appropriate thing.
But it seems like you're wedded to the duplex situation, correct?
Yeah, right now, that's what we would show.
Okay.
It's 2-unit buildings.
Also, we've had some comment on the plan set. Maybe making it easier for people to see the 50-foot wetland setback and the 100-foot prime wetland setback, maybe by coloring those buffers. Is that possible? Right now, on some of the plans, like I'm looking at Y11, it's hard to actually discern the edges and everything, and I'm not even sure they actually show, well, that one does show it on that lot, but they're showing the 30 side setback, but not the wetlands buffer. And it goes on and on and on. Some have it, some don't. So if you could just have them punch different colors for the 50 and the 100, just make it easier for people to figure out what's what. Because some of these on the yield plan, like Y13, and some of them are wider, some of them are crunched closer together. So particularly, let's say Y15, it's hard to delineate anything. I've got a wetland here. That one shows the prime wetland, but you also have non-prime wetlands that, like on 43, that don't indicate. So that's all.
Can I speak to that?
Oh, of course.
We're not gonna provide that for you.
Oh, okay.
We provided a substantial set of plans. It's there for you to look at. You have Joe's word that it meets all the setbacks. For us to go to that level on this plan doesn't make any sense. It's costing us money. This doesn't make any sense. So we're not gonna do that. Is
Okay.
there anything else you need?
There's probably a lot I need, but I guess you're suggesting that I shouldn't even ask.
Well, it's reasonable, sure. That's not
My
reasonable.
God, you're asking us to spend money on a
That's not-
$90 or $100 million project. My
It
God.
sounds like a lot of money, doesn't it? Yes.
Yeah.
But it's not, there's a lot of
Okay.
expense, a lot of cost goes into that $90 million, as everyone's kind of throwing it out there, but,
Okay.
yeah. So I think we provided a lot of details. I mean, again, it's a yield plan. This is probably the most significant yield plan I've ever seen.
Really?
And I'll go back to what I said before, conservation, in most towns, a conservation plan or development, they actually give you some sort of incentive to do it, right? So they want you,
That's pretty much all the
In most towns, they
subdivisions
do
we
that.
So
I mean-
even our consultant said of all the towns they've dealt with, we are the one who does most conservation subdivisions.
Right. Yeah. I don't know, I can't answer that, but
Well,
all I know is in
just telling you
a
what
lot
they
of
said.
towns, they give you an incentive, they encourage you to do it, right? So what's our
Since
encouragement?
everybody does it,
What's
we
our
don't have to
encouragement?
give incentives.
What's our encouragement here?
Yeah, okay.
Our encouragement is to be able to cluster homes together, less roads, because we all know roads cost a lot of money. So that's our encouragement.
I know, Canaan Back Road is gonna be expensive.
Yes, that's right. It is. Yeah. So, and it's a beautiful scenic road, right? Everyone wants to save that road. So, there's gonna become, what kind of road do you want? So that's down the road. We have
That's true.
a yield plan here. We're asking the town to vote on this yield plan. We feel we did a lot of work. It's extensive.
Well, I think our reaction was, we'll talk to our attorney and find out what her position is
Yeah.
on the request we're making.
Yeah, that's good. Just 1 second.
Squared away.
You have a timeframe on this? For 30 days?
It's a good question for Pat. I think it's a little vague because we're in design review.
Haven't even submitted it. That's only relevant once
Is
you,
there a time limit? It can't just
excuse
go on
me,
forever.
you should be talking to the board.
I'm asking my consultant, this is my consultant.
Well, have a private conversation if you need to.
It's not specified.
That's only applicable once you submit an application. There's no application.
We have a
Who knows?
design review application in front
Yeah,
of you.
I know, but. yeah,
And
but
your
This-
regs talk about 2 meetings
We,
to review
so,
it.
so when you're talking to your attorney, you should ask him that, because we feel there's a time limit on this. We're not gonna go on forever here. You're gonna go talk to your attorney. I wanted to ask you to vote on this tonight. I think it's ready to be voted on tonight, up or down. We'll take whatever you give us and,
I think we just
vote
said
on it.
we, prior to making a decision like that, we'd like to talk to our attorney. That's all.
Yeah.
No, we haven't opened it to public comment, but we'll do that, don't worry.
What is the process for designating this of regional significance, and how does that impact all of?
Well, there is a multi-step process, and you have to also involve the Regional Planning Commission in that. Again, that's once they submit an application.
So it comes after,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
the
I
application.
think it'd be pertinent to stick to the yield plan requirements. I mean, you jump back and forth and it's natural, but I mean, to be thorough and if it makes sense, and the chair agrees, to go through A through F and see what's missing, if that's the purview of the board, as opposed to jumping to, futures and whether the road's going to be taken over and things like that will come later.
Right, yeah.
The plan in front of you is for a yield, and if it's in the regulations, you want to talk about it, it might be productive.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, your section subdivision 3.3, parentheses 3, design review is a process that is intended to be limited in nature. These limitations also apply to the length of the process. Design review shall be limited to 2 meetings or 60 days.
Right, I understand, yeah.
So we're at the second meeting tonight for this design review.
And all of these things depend upon information that's provided to the board. That's always part of this process. They have a 65-day thing also once you submit a plan, but nobody, that is meaningless. Because it all depends upon any additional information required that you will request a continuance. So that 60-day timelet goes to when you arrive with the information that has to be provided.
But it also,
We're not doing, I
it
mean,
also
just,
contemplates this review process being limited in nature. We're simply looking at this yield plan that your zoning ordinance says we have to do through a design review process. So,
once again, you're the first people to step in with this new zoning. We don't know what we're doing on every detail since we haven't had any history of dealing with this new zoning. We're in the learning process. We had hoped we would get some small 6-lot subdivisions to practice on it, but you showed up with the biggest thing that has ever happened in Barrington, and you're saying, gee, cut us a break. Come on. You got to go with the program. Jamie, do you have any comments? The A through,
Pardon me. The only thing in the yield plan that jumps out as a regulation that I noticed, and this is not comprehensive at all, but is just buffer impacts that are under your regulations that may require a 9.6.
right.
That was the regulatory hurdle that jumped out at me.
9.6, and if they're not granted, it goes to the Superior Court, right?
It was mentioned that there are criteria for this yield plan under your 6.3.2 parentheses 2. Jamie said there's A through F.
Right.
And I can go through these real quick, but I think we've submitted all this information. Under that says we have to provide topo, wetland and floodplain areas. That's all been surveyed. This is actual wetland delineation, real topo. None of this is computer generated LiDAR or things
Sure.
from the internet. B, if the submitted plan relies on waivers, we're not proposing any waivers with this layout. C,
right.
Conceptual lot shall clearly show all wetlands, buffers, 4K areas, test pits, include at least one test pit meeting local and state requirements, steep slopes, very steep slopes, setbacks, and any other information necessary that the conceptual lot adheres to all local land use requirements. We've provided all that information. D, conceptual lot shall adhere to all frontage requirements and demonstrate compliance with the road standards. We feel we've done that with the frontage calculations.
I'm waiting for you to get to F.
Yeah, and the conceptual plan shall outline the location of all conceptual roadways. Clearly, we've done that. F, if necessary, the planning board may request additional information from the applicant to support the viability, realistic, and feasibility of the yield plan, which,
If necessary.
Yeah, some of the language was, it should have been realistic nature of the yield plan, but
Right,
some
but-
of the words got left out because realistic.
we have submitted information on the viability and feasibility of the yield plan, and it's, as Attorney Panciaco said, there's no definition of.
Right, we'll talk to our attorney and, for the next meeting, and we'll get some, clearance on what we're requesting. Does that sound good to the board? That's the best way? Rather than everybody having a particular opinion, we'll default to her. Does that work for you guys?
Public comment?
You got any comments? Oh, yeah, I'm gonna open it up. It looks like she's coming back. Taking direction from the big guy.
I was hoping for the record, Patricia I was wondering if it was possible, and I don't know that it is or it isn't, if the board does consult with council before we meet one more time, possibly communicate through Ernie with us as to what you feel with specificity is missing, so that we can come in here next time, be prepared.
Yeah,
and
Ernie will
hopefully-
be in the meeting and he'll be
Yes.
able to,
I think that would be helpful because
Absolutely.
as you've pointed out, this is new. Maybe it just needs to be broken in a little bit, maybe not with the biggest project in town, but I mean, I do think that the consultants have gone above and beyond.
Right.
I mean, I don't think traffic report was listed here and you got a full-blown traffic report. So I do think they've done their very best to give you what you need.
okay.
So
At this
if,
point, I'm gonna open it to public comment.
okay,
And if you would stand by in case we have to.
if you have questions for me, I'll be.
Yeah, they won't be talking to you directly, but they can direct the question to the board and I can relay it to them.
Okay, thanks.
So please come forward, name and address, please.
Sure. Good evening. My name is Paul Clem. I live at 259 Canaanback Road. I just wanted to point out a few things. First of all, in the subdivision regulations, there was, moment. I apologize. In the zoning ordinance, 6.3.2 paren 4, the planning board, at its discretion, may require a study to confirm the financial and technical feasibility under current market conditions of any presented yield plan or section, as Mr. Allard alluded to, section of a yield plan. Therefore, the definition of feasible includes, it has to include the financial part of it, and it has to include the technical part. And also, while I was sitting there, I found a case that I commend to the board, which is the appeal of Beal, 176 New Hampshire 205, it's a 2023 case. Talks about the financial feasibility. It's a difficult case, it's hard to read, but it also says that feasibility can include the financial ability to put this together. That was one comment. The other is that there was references tonight to 6.3.2, and I'm just going to flip to that for a second. They were talking about the 4 or 5 things that they did apply to, and one of the board members mentioned F, which kind of opens up to you other options that you can ask for additional information. But what's not mentioned in Attorney Panzialka's letter and what's not mentioned here tonight is the beginning of that paragraph, or the beginning of that sentence, where it says, at a minimum, the conceptual yield plan shall. At a minimum, it is a floor, not a ceiling. You have far greater discretion to make requests for information than I suggest would be letting on tonight. Finally, I know I only have 3 minutes, so I'll just say this. The reference to the, I'm not sure it came up tonight, but it's in the letter about the master plan, about 200, by 2040, 559, I think, units. 150 something of them have to be for projects or homes that are intended to be $350,000 or less. It is a little surprising that the applicant would want to condense that all into one building now, when we still have 15 years to spread out this growth in town for homes being within that limit. It seems unrealistic. I invite this board to look up this term feasibility. You said you're going to mention it to council. I recommend that as well, and I thank you for your time.
Thanks. Anyone else would like to speak?
Good evening, Colin Williams, 94 Old Settlers Road, and my interest in this goes back till 1980 when my father bought the property. And I applaud the extensive survey work. It's amazing what you've done. I will say I'm surprised that the causeway there is constructible. It was built in 1981 or 82, and it's just fill dumped on top of marsh. There's no substrate on that, so if you did get a permit, you would have to completely dig up the wetlands through the protected aquifer zone, and I don't understand how that could be a go. Also, in the documents that were submitted for this meeting, there was the traffic feasibility study, which if I read it right, said nothing needs to be done on Canaan Back Road. And I would say none of you have driven on Canaan Back Road in mud season. People have to get towed out. They bottom out. It's not going to take 1,000 trips a day. That's just fantasy land. And it also says that you don't have to rebuild the entrance onto Route 9. Again, that is an extremely dangerous intersection. People come in from both directions, barreling off 202, and they can't see what's coming. And if that doesn't get built, there's going to be lots of accidents. We've lived there for 30 years, and I must have had a dozen near misses. It's not a safe intersection, and it'll be up to whoever, the town or the developer, to build it. I do think if the owners had a vision of what they would like to do and could bring that before the board, not saying that, we want 100, I don't know, maybe what you want is 158 units. But if you could delineate what would be conserved, that would, I think, bring the temperature down some. I would love to see the maximum amount conserved. I love this property. Beautiful piece of property. Yeah.
If you could send a note to the planning department on the history of that road you just described.
Okay.
Because I've heard various things that it started out with slash and so forth, and it was
in terms of, my father said he didn't own the Roger Layton piece over there. He wanted to have his own access to Popple Hill. And he said, well, let's drop some trees and put dirt on top of it.
That was
and
like a corduroy road.
Yeah.
So forth. Yeah.
And that's what it was. And Stan and Bobby Merrill with their dozers and trucks did it. And the borrow pit is over towards the gravel pit. Over there towards the trailer park is where they took the materials from. And it just was pushed across so that my dad could drive across. Okay. And he and I fought about it. I said, you can't do that. He says, watch me. So.
Yeah, filling wetlands, not a big deal.
Yeah. They're all dead now, so.
Yeah.
I think no one's going to get, and.
See Caliph Island Road and Micah Point Road.
Yeah.
Just people did things like that.
The other thing is, you talked about having the conservation land as part of the condominium association, where CELT owns both sides, back, north, west, and part to the east
hate to say anything, but your time has expired.
My time is,
Oh,
okay.
okay.
If you get that
Thank you.
involved, it'd be great.
Thanks.
I get online to do it. I'm not gonna get it.
Somebody's online?
I just can't believe it.
Oh,
It's
okay.
exciting. I think it should be privately managed.
Couple of points, you're addressing the board, and you have 3 minutes.
I address.
You can't talk to them.
Yeah, I'm not talking to them.
You got 3 minutes, I'll waive at 30 seconds.
30? Okay. All right. My name's Henry Peterman, 252 Canneback. I have the youngest residence on Canneback Road. We love it. We walk it every day, ride our bikes, no concern for safety. I think that vehicle study, the study on the road, did not reflect both directions. I think that is something to bring up, that I myself go the other way every day when I leave for work. And then when I go to town, I go the other way. As Canneback Road is developed and built up, we will need to build that intersection. I will say that as that intersection is developed, as Canneback Road is developed, and this development does go forward, I fear we're going to have the same risk that we have on, what is it, 152? That we've had with the accidents there. This is going to be one of the most trafficked area. As Canneback Road is developed, people are going to take it from the Stratford side to get to the many power sport businesses we have in Barrington, to get to Dover. They're going to cut from Bow Lake down Canneback Road to go to Dover. And I think that intersection is going to see so much more as we develop our road. So it is a matter of safety with that intersection that needs to be addressed. That is part of the feasibility. Now, just my background. I've been in the Army for 21 years, and my last posting was Joint Force Headquarters. I worked with 3-letter agencies, 4-letter agencies in the state of Vermont with emergency responses. Vermont is safe when it comes to snow. We all know how to do that, but not water. It's flooding. And I just want to bring up some of the flooding risks we have here. Take a look at October 1996, 2 to 3 feet of wet snow. 2005, I was on my way to infantry school then. Right then, I went across prime wetlands, I believe in Epping. It might not have been prime, but my Jeep almost got pushed off the road. 2005, 10-day period, 15 inches of rain. 2006, the Mother's Day flood. I think a majority of you were in this town then. All right, 16 inches of rainfall in 4 days. These bridges have to be feasible and viable. I'm sorry, but this would cost the town millions to repair these bridges. I try to think about, just from my National Guard background, where can we land a helicopter? Because all of these developments would be cut off. That is part of the feasible aspect of this development. All right, luckily there's a field across the way that we could, because that is how we had to do it in Vermont. For 4 weeks, we had to supply whole entire communities with water and food by helicopter. And I think that has to come into effect with this study here. Okay, go ahead.
30 seconds.
Oh, yay, okay. Well, that is all I have. I do have a whole bit here on safety and how I worry that this road will become a main traffic route. And I think that has to be taken into consideration, especially as we develop the road, and especially as we develop only one end of the road. Now we have all the sharp turns and everything on the Stratford side. All right, that's it.
Thanks from 11 Bravo.
Probably a long time ago, but we're probably in the same place.
I'm Catherine Clem. I'm from 259 Canneback Road. It's a very high point, so I might be able to help with the helicopter. I just found a market. No, I just wanted to thank everyone for their diligence in this process. I've lived there for 25 years, and it is a very special piece of property. And I just thank you for the work that you're doing. It really means a lot to us, and the things that everyone's brought up. And, you know, I definitely appreciate, welcome to the neighborhood, but we need your patience as well, because this is a very special piece of property because of the 2 prime wetlands, because of the traffic, Canneback Road being the type of road it is, and this being the biggest development. So I do appreciate everyone's patience and diligence, and thank you so much for the job you're doing. And thank you for what you've done, but I really think we need to look at these issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak?
I'm Joe Wilson, 79 Finney Way, Barrington. The question you had about the 25 lots, is it feasible? I'm in construction. That's $30 million for the sales. There's no way they can't build those bridges. It's definitely, the whole project's feasible. And they take it and spread it over the whole project, the cost, not just those 25 lots. If you did the math, $30 million for the 25 lots. It sounds like people have their own agendas with the wetlands and everything. These people have done developments that big and had no problem at all. You can talk to any town they've done them in. No problem at all. It's disheartening to hear the way they're getting treated. That's all I gotta say.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone online would like to speak?
Yes, we do have one online with their hand up. If you unmute yourself and.
Yes, hi.
Name and
Hi,
address.
this is Nancy Taylor. Can you hear me?
It's a little quiet, but
Okay, I'll try to speak up louder. This is
That's better.
Nancy Taylor from 52 Old Settlers Road. One of the things I would really like to the board to consider is the wetland crossings, especially the isthmus behind our house, which Colin was just speaking about. We can see that piece of land from our backyard, and it's very wet back there. According to the town maps, there are prime wetlands on either side of this isthmus, and the prime wetland setbacks would basically negate there being any road back there. So I don't understand really why that wouldn't require a waiver and some type of special approval to get have a crossing back there. Also, I didn't really understand the comments about you can just build a new pond and expect the environment and habitat and wildlife to just, go on as if whatever gets, destructed in the process of the construction to not be impacted or water flow be impacted. As Henry was just saying, there were the 2006 floods, which right now on Old Settlers Road, the town is putting in a new bridge. I don't know how much that's costing the town, but that whole area washed away in 2006. That's right next to our property. Our property juts out into those prime wetlands. So, it's not a matter of if another flooding event like that will occur. It's when will another flooding event like that occur. And it's very necessary that the wetlands don't get disturbed so that they can absorb floodwaters. And also, is it feasible for those houses to be built right next to the wetlands if there was another flooding event? Would they be flooded out? So I think that is should be an area of investigation. And then lastly, if the developer keeps control of these roads, then the town has no control over the salting and maintenance on the roads and how that would impact the prime wetlands and the aquifer. So I think the town would have to end up taking control of the roads in order to protect the wetlands, because otherwise you have no control over what gets put down on the roads when it's icy out and and what gets the runoff into these areas. So I have a lot of concerns. I would much rather see the developer consider just developing on the land around the big house, the fields back there, and not cross over onto Popple Hill and those adjacent areas, because it has too many environmental impacts to wildlife, the habitat, and I don't know. I'm a little bit upset right now because I feel like Mr. Morse showed a very high level of disrespect. Yep. Thank you.
Next up, Booty, if unmute yourself.
Yes. I have two quick things to say. One, I want to say thank you to the board for being so careful with this project. I think we
Excuse
all
me,
agreed.
could you speak up a little bit louder? It's hard to hear you on this end.
Yes. I just wanted to say thank you to the board for being so careful with this project. And then also I wanted to say that I especially appreciate being so considerate of those 25 backlots, because if you count those for the purposes of the conventional subdivision, then that will allow more buildable lots for the conservation subdivision. So it does matter what lots we count for the conventional yield plan. But thank you to the board for their care.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I will I read from the chat. We had comments from the chat. Linda Burchette, she's mentioned the yield plan is unrealistic. Slope wetlands cannot build this many houses on this environmentally sensitive land. Road costs will be excessive. Permits will not be allowed. Traffic will be a nightmare. School costs, go back to the drawing board. We had another comment from Kayla Piva. My concern would be first responders. We don't have enough staff for that big of a project. The traffic, school costs, and we also don't have the bus drivers. And
We go with someone standing over here. You
Oh,
might not be able to
one
see
more
them.
person. Yep.
I'm Mike Khmer. I live at, on Canaan Road, 237. Earlier, Nancy brought it up, and earlier, Jamie, you were talking about trade-offs with wetlands. If you disturb a wetland, then you put in a pond somewhere else. I guess you let it fill up with water, and you dig a hole, you let it fill up with water. It sounds to me, by the definition of what you're saying, is you're going to disturb two different places. And I don't see how you can say that one mitigates the other. You're doing a disturbance in the first place, you're going to do a disturbance in another place and say, well, it's a trade-off for what you did. I think you've put in two things that are in conflict with what you should be doing. And I think that needs to be considered. Thank you.
Thank you. Last call. Anyone else? Okay. So I guess for the applicant to finish. Do that, but go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. Whoops.
The work session, a public meeting?
Yeah, all our meetings are public, yeah. I think you appeared at our last work session.
Yes.
Right, you want to come to another one?
Okay, so if we have some decisions made at that point, we'll let you know. Ernie will let you know. Other than that, you want to return to our next public hearing in, what's the, continue to, what's the date? November 4th. Okay.
So you need a motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to continue it to November 4th, seconded by
Second.
Ron. Roll call.
Shepherd, aye.
Nap eye. Cat and I.
Can't be allowed.
Chelsea, aye.
Mallard eye.
Driscoll, aye. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.